Okay. Machine learning. Presently, we are mostly hearing the term machine learning. So, what is machine learning? What are the different kinds of applications are there in the machine learning? And just try to cover the basic things in the machine learning. So, first of all, what is machine learning and what is this? Is actually when it comes to humans, humans can learn everything automatically from their experiences, and they can work according to the environment. They will know the situation and they can do the task easily by thinking. Okay. When it comes to machines, machines also can do the work by learning. So if you see this simple diagram shows about how the human and machines will think. Humans can learn everything automatically from experiences and can learn. When it comes to machines, machines can also learn from the past data with the help of machine learning algorithms. So what these machine learning algorithms will do is, actually there are different types of algorithms and machine learning techniques are available in the real time. So they use these algorithms to predict something based on the past data. Okay. So when it comes to basic things, so there are different standard definitions are given by the machine learning. Okay. The simple definitions are here. Machine learning is a programming computers to optimize a performance criterion using examined data or past experiences. So here what the machine learning will do is, it will take the past data and past experience. Based on that experience, it will predict the future, what is going to happen. Okay, for example, if you take a medical diagnosis system which will take different parameters of the medical parameters, and it will use some techniques or machine learning algorithms, and it is able to predict what kind of disease is going to come in the near future. Okay, so those are some simple examples where we use machine learning techniques. There are so many applications where machine learning will play an important role, like image recognition, recommendation systems, and there are many applications which uses the machine learning. So simple definitions like the goal of machine learning is to develop methods that can automatically detect patterns in data, and then to use uncovered patterns to predict future data or other outcomes of interest. Means based on the connected information, it is analyze the existing data and it is able to predict the future what is going to be happening. Okay, so like this there are many applications where machine learning is playing an important role in present. Okay, this is simple diagram shows what is machine learning is. Okay, so we will take a data set which contains huge amount of information, like in the form of different dimensions, different number of records we will consider in the data set. So the data set which contains different values, different parameters. Okay, so what we do actually in the machine learning is, we will consider a model. Okay, so where the model or predictor is comes under the machine learning. So which way we take a huge amount of data that is given to the model. So this, the first step we do in the machine learning is train the data. Okay, so training the model by using the data. Okay, for example, we have a data set of 1000 records. So in the 1000 records, we use some 70%, means around 700 records will be used for training the model, and remaining 30% we will use it for the testing purpose. Means how the model is working when we give that input, it is able to predict the exact output or not, we are going to test it. So the first step in the machine learning is training. So it will we will train the model by giving some set of records which we are there in the data set, and once here the predictor or model may be any kind of machine learning algorithm. So there are different kinds of algorithms exist. So it will uses different algorithms to model it, and in the testing data we have some data which is not trained. So by using that data, we will check how the model is doing, how accurately it is predicting, and how precision it is. So all those parameters we will consider by testing the model. So once the model is done properly, then it is given for the real-time usage. Okay, so this model or predictor will be used in the real time. So these are the basic steps if we take any machine learning algorithm. So these are the basic steps which are performed. Okay, so there will be a training set, and there will be a testing data, and there will be an algorithm which may be any regression algorithm or classification algorithm or clustering algorithm. So there may be any kind of algorithm will be used. So that completely depends on the application, what kind of application we are using, what kind of data set we have. Based on that, it will decide the model. So simple machine learning will be like this. We will perform a training, and there will be a testing, and there will be a algorithm or model. Now what is the need? Okay, so here what is the importance of machine learning? Why it is growing that much importance in today's? Okay, so following some key points like rapid increment in the production of data. There is a huge amount of data is generated every day. So what the organizations are doing is to collect the data, and they are able to find what patterns in the data, and using those patterns they use it for bringing the new products into the market, or they modify some existing products, and they will rectify any issues in the products. So everything they are able to increase the production. Okay, so that is the main goal of the organizations, and solving complex problems which are difficult for a human. Okay, so in these cases also we use machine learning and decision making in various sectors including finance, and finding hidden patterns and extracting useful information from data. So this is very useful applications where in the real time most of the organizations are using this information to know about what is the sales of those products they manufacture, and everything. They are able to identify what is the customers behavior regarding the products, how they are thinking about the products. So everything they are able to predict by using this machine learning algorithms. Now this is simple applications. So if you see this way of applications, so many things are there in our day-to-day life. Every day we are using one kind of machine learning algorithm. Okay, coming to this simple example, as I said, medical diagnosis. In medical diagnosis, like we will give a set of parameters, like we will perform different diagnostics, and based on those diagnostics values, we will able to predict what kind of disease may be possible in future. Is it going to come in the near future or not? Okay, so that way this medical diagnosis uses machine learning algorithms. And automatic language translation, like simple, we have the feature in the Google. Whenever we want to translate, you simply click on the translate button and do the task. So similarly, if I want to translate from one language to another language, so we go for this machine learning algorithms. And stock market trading. Okay, nowadays people are using most in this. They are able to predict the price of the stock, how it is going to be. Is it going to be increased or decreased in the future, and what is the expected price of the stock in the future. So those simple ways how this will be. Product recommendations, e-commerce, all the e-commerce sites are using that product recommendation. So when we want to purchase some products on the e-commerce websites, they will provide the recommendations for us. If we look for certain products, it will list out all the possible products with those features. So there are many applications. Another example like self-driving cars. Okay, so these are called autonomous vehicles. These are existing in some countries. So how they will move on the roads with the traffic, how they will drive the vehicles where there is a lot of traffic is there. So how they will control and everything. So they will apply some machine learning models. See, these are only few I listed here. There are many applications are there which uses the machine learning. Okay. So now coming to the classification. So basically machine learning algorithms are classified into three types. One is supervised learning, another one is unsupervised learning, and third one is reinforcement learning. So I will simply specify what is meant by supervised, unsupervised, and reinforcement. So in the supervised learning, it uses the labeled data. So by using the labeled data, it is able to predict what is the future. It uses the prediction. And in unsupervised learning, like in supervised learning, like there is a teacher who will teach everything to the students, and students will learn from the teacher. So that kind of scenario is called is supervised learning. In unsupervised learning, there will be no labeled data, even though it is able to identify the hidden patterns in the data. Like a student without a teacher, like a student has to learn a concept without being teached by any teacher. So those things are called unsupervised learning. And comes the reinforcement learning. So in the reinforcement learning, like trial and error technique. In this trial and error technique, so student will be able to learn and do some task and check the output. If it is accurate output, he will leave it, otherwise he will perform again and do the task again and learn something and improve the performance like that. So this is what reinforcement learning. So simply like these are the basically three types of machine learning algorithms exist in the real time. Okay, so it's supervised machine learning. It uses labeled data and it is able to find the hidden patterns by using that labeled data. So general applications like classification and radiation. And when it comes to the unsupervised learning, is a learning method in which a machine learns without any supervision. Okay, without any supervision, the machine is able to learn. Okay, so the training is provided to the machine with a set of data that has not been labeled. Okay, so here there is no labeled data used in this unsupervised learning. Okay, and so the goal of unsupervised learning is to restructure the input data into new features or a group of objects with similar patterns. So the basic applications where we use this unsupervised is clustering and association. In clustering means we have to identify the patterns. So based on those patterns we have to group together. So that is one kind of clustering, and another one is the association. So this is about unsupervised learning. Then comes the reinforcement learning. So in the reinforcement learning, it's a feedback based learning method in which a learning agent gets a reward for each right action and gets a penalty for each wrong action. Like here, so just like I said, no, it's a trial and error process. So one thing, first they will learn and do some task. If it is accurate, they will go with that. Otherwise, they will redo the same task again and they need to improve the performance. So like this, like a game, they will play each time. If they do the right thing, they will be rewarded. If they do the wrong thing, they will be penalty will be there. So the agent learns automatically with these feedbacks and improves its performance. Okay. So the machine reinforcement learning approach this policy. Like they will do some task. If it is correct, then they will improve it. If there are any mistakes, they will learn again and they will improve the performance. The agent interacts with the environment and explores it. Okay. So like unlike supervised and unsupervised learning, so in supervised the agent knows the environment completely and according to the knowledge he will perform it. In unsupervised and reinforcement learning, the agent does not know anything about the environment. So he will gradually learns about the environment and performs. Okay. So examples like the robotic dog. So automatically learns the movement of his arms is an example of reinforcement learning. Okay, so this is three types of machine learnings. So supervised, unsupervised and reinforcement learning. So in the supervised learning, so is the types of machine learning in which machines are trained using well-labeled training data, and on the basis the data machines predict the output. Okay, so we already know some data, so which will be used to train the model. So once we train the model, then we can use that model to predict. So in supervised learning, the training data provided to the machines work as the supervisor that teaches the machines to predict the output correctly. Okay. So here, the supervisor training, what is happening is, so it train the machines and like a supervisor, means the data is labeled, the data is available, every knowledge about the environment, everything is available to the machine. So based on that knowledge, it is able to predict the future things. And in the similar way, supervised learning is to find a mapping function to map the input variable with the output variable. So what is input variable and what is output variable, how it will be used in this. So they will, we will, for example, we will give some inputs values. Based on that we are able to predict the output. Okay, so how output is changing based on the input. So in such cases we will use this supervised learning, because here input we already know labeled data. So that based on that labeled data we are able to predict the output. Now see in the examples, the most basic examples where supervised learning is used is risk assessment, image classification, fraud detection, spam filtering, etc. Okay, for example, you take one example as risk assessment. So when say risk assessment, simple example like one organization wants to start a new plant or something, they want to come up with some new productions. Okay, so they are choosing some places to install that plant and do work on it. So they will collect a lot of information about that geographic area. They will find out all the parameters, like for example, if a company wants to start a new production house in some state in India, what they do, they will collect the information regarding the different states, which state is possible to install that plant, and how much price will incur for us if we start in a particular state. Okay, what are the other features we are getting in those particular places, states. So they will collect all the information about those parameters, and fine day all the higher authority people will discuss where we are getting more features and which state giving more offers in terms of financial things. So based on those criteria they will decide. Okay, so that is what simple risk assessment. Like spam filtering, we know every day we are using Gmail or some other means. So how that will perform, like is it a given mail ID, is it a spam or a normal mail. So how the Gmail server will identify if it should be moved to the normal mail or spam mail. So how that will be done, it uses one kind of machine learning algorithm. So fraud detection and image classification. So how do you classify that image? Okay, so is it which category of that image, so how that classification will be done. So all these examples uses supervised learning. Okay. Okay, the simple scenario structure of the supervised learning. Okay, so here we already have the labeled data. So this is the data set which contains labeled data, and we have a lot of data points here. So these are all the data set. This entire thing is called data set, and each thing is labeled with it. Okay, like hexagon is labeled, triangle is labeled, square is labeled. Now what we are doing is we are taking this data set and we are training the model. Okay, so just here the supervised learning model will come as part of this. So we are training the model. So once we train the model, so now we are using this model for the prediction. So how that will be done? See here, for example, this is my data set. I trained the model. Now next, I have given this input as the test data. Means I am passing these information to my model. So just let me predict what these are. So when I give this input to the model, so what it will do is it will predict so what this symbol is and what this symbol is as an output. Okay, so this is what it will give. So the first one is the square and the second one is the triangle. Simple, this is very simple example how the supervised learning will work. So based on the labeled data. So everything is known. So this is an hexagon, this is a rectangle, this is a triangle. So everything is known to the model. So based on that, it is able to predict when I give the test data. Okay, so but when it comes to unsupervised, these labels are not there. So we don't have any labels. Now at that place, what it will do is it will categorize this data into like which are hexagons, which are space, and which are triangles. It will group those data points into different categories. Okay, so this is simple supervised learning algorithm. Okay, so this uses supervised learning algorithm. So this model is our supervised learning algorithm. So it will take the input and train the model, and we will test it. So how exactly it is predicting. So we use some parameters about this. What is the accuracy, how much it is doing, and mean square error. So some parameters we will use to measure the performance of this algorithm. So here it becomes different algorithms are there as part of the supervised learning. So we can use any kind of those algorithms, right? So supervised learning is classified into two things. One is regression, another one is the classification. So what is regression, what kinds of regression is available, and what is classification, how the classification will be achieved. Okay, we will see. So regression algorithms are used if there is a relationship between the input variable and the output variable. Okay, so if there is a relationship based on the input, if the output is changing. Okay, so output is the dependent variable and input are called the independent variables. So based on if there is a relation between the input and output variables, then we use regression algorithms. So it is used for the prediction of continuous variables such as weather, forecasting. Okay, so mostly when we apply regression, if the values are in the continuous range. Okay, so examples like different types of regressions are there. So linear regression and regression trees, non-linear regression, Bayesian linear regression, polynomial regression, and distinct market trends, etc. So these are different types of regressions. So each will be used in different scenarios. Based on the type of the requirement, we may choose any of those regression techniques. Like, okay, simple linear regression when we use if we have only two variables, one input variable, one output variable. So in that case, I can go with the linear regression. And if there are multiple variables, I can use multiple linear regression. So there are so many types of situational problems. Based on that, we may choose any of those regression techniques. Okay, so the simple thing what is regression is if it is able to find the relationship between the input variable and the output variable. That is the main goal of the regression algorithms. And based on the type of the problem, we may choose any of those regression techniques, and we mostly use it for the prediction of continuous values. Okay. So the second one is classification. In the classification, so these are used when the output variable is categorical. Okay, which means there are two classes such as yes or no answers and male, female, or true, false, like this. So in those cases, we go for this classification algorithm. So simple example is spam filtering. So particular mail is a spam, yes or no. Only two answers will be there. And is there going to be rain today? It's going to rain today. So it's is yes or no answer, right? So in those situations, we go for this classification algorithms. So types of classification is random forest algorithms, decision trees, and logistic regression, and support vector machines. So all these are used as part of the classification techniques. Okay, so when we use, see, the regression is used when we have the continuous variables, and we use classification when we have categorical values. Okay, so in those two situations, we use these classification algorithms and regression algorithms. Now, so what is the advantage and disadvantages of supervised learning? So with the help of supervised learning, the model can predict the output on the basis of prior experiences. Means, as I said, the data is already labeled. So using that labeled data, it is going to predict the output. And in supervised learning, we can have an exact idea about the classes of objects. Means what data set we are using, and what is the range of those values, and what is different dimensions we have. Everything is known in the supervised learning. At the same time, we have some disadvantages, like those are not suitable for handling the complex tasks. Okay, and cannot predict the correct output if the test data is different from the training data set. Okay, so this point says, for example, if we consider a data set from the same data set only we use the data set to train and the test, and it will not work if the data set is different for training and testing. Okay, so that means the same data set we have to use for the training purpose and the testing purpose. And training required lots of computation types. Okay, so if the data set is huge, we have some thousands of records in the data set. Training the machine will take lot of amount of time. So that is one of the drawback of this supervised learning algorithm. Okay, so training and classification and regression are the best examples of the supervised learning.